Thank you, Charlie. Delighted to be here.
I want to read something you said.
Okay.
This is like 5 shows right here. Even though it's common knowledge these days, it never ceases to amaze me that all the richness of our mental life, all of our feelings, our emotions, our thoughts, our ambitions, our love life, our religious sentiments, and even what each of us regards as his own intimate private self, is simply the activity of these little specks of jelly in your head, in your brain.
Yes, absolutely. Well, it is astonishing, and it still never ceases to amaze me. I mean, just think about it. Here's this mass of jelly, lump of jelly you can hold in your hand, called the brain, and it can contemplate vastness of space. It can think about atoms, subatomic particles. It can think about angels and unicorns. It can think about infinity, the mathematical concept of infinity. It can even think about itself contemplating these things. And this is truly the most astonishing thing in the universe as we know it.
And what's the primary difference in the species?
Well, this is a very contested issue, whether we are merely more sophisticated hairless apes who are just quantitatively a little bit better than the great apes, or whether there's a sudden quantum jump in evolution which makes us human. I happen to believe the latter, that there are in fact traits that are uniquely human. That, of course, it doesn't imply it didn't evolve from pre-existing structures, because I'm not a creationist. I believe in Darwinian natural selection. Nevertheless, there are some novel styles of computing, novel styles of information processing that are unique to the brain. Language is one striking example. Self-awareness is a striking example. I'm aware of myself to an extent that no great ape is aware of itself. They see red the same way you and I see red, but they don't ask themselves questions like, who am I? Where am I from? You can reach for the stars, an ape can reach for a branch.
How do you know that?
Well, very often in science, it's not a question of absolute proof, but circumstantial evidence. People have done experiments on apes, extensive experiments, to try and see what their cognitive abilities are. We're always amazed at how good they are. But things like being self-conscious and aware, and certainly language, people have tried to teach apes language, and you teach them a rudimentary form of sign language. But what they cannot do is what's called recursive embedding. For example, saying, John who hit Mary went to the ball. John who hit Mary went to the ball. You instantly know it's not Mary who went to the ball, but John.
Right.
This hierarchic embedding of clause within clause is something that no great ape is capable of, and we think is uniquely human. The other things are things like laughter and humor. I mean, we're the laughing biped.
They don't laugh.
They don't laugh. I mean, unless you count hyenas, but that's it.
Now, if they see themselves in a mirror,
yes,
what do they do?
Well, it's a good question. When you confront, it's claimed that if you, of course, in initial exposure to a mirror, whether it's a child or an ape, it looks like another person. And for example, a monkey never gets used to the fact that it's a mirror image. But a great ape, a chimpanzee, for example, and indeed a human, after experience with a mirror, seeing that the mirror image does everything, is perfectly replicates every one of your little movements, gives it the clue that this is not another strange creature, but it must be me. Now, only humans can say it is me and a reflection in the mirror. Apes habituate and get the hang of it. But the extraordinary thing is, when an ape is anesthetized and you put a red patch on the forehead, the ape wakes up and looks in the mirror, he immediately does this, wipes off the patch. So he does have some rudimentary sense of awareness of his body and realizes he has to do this to remove that spot. He doesn't reach into the mirror. So in that sense, it's not an all or none thing. It's not as though awareness suddenly emerged out of the blue.
Tell me about the brain's plasticity.
With regard to plasticity, it used to be believed that these connections in the brain, we're talking about 100 billion nerve cells in the average human brain, and each nerve cells makes something like 1,000 to 10,000 contacts with other nerve cells. And the contacts can be inhibitory, can be excitatory, can be on, can be off. And someone has calculated that the number of brain states, the number of possible permutations and combinations, exceeds the number of elementary particles in the known universe. So how